Che dang Tashin male sosai jib jani nyurdu sanje salai ge barai shu
알아서 당연히 신뢰인다. 신뢰는 아니다.
We will begin with the opening prayers.
Sanje
Now, can you all hear me? First of all, I would like to offer to all of the teachers and faculty members, all of the members of the Noble Sangha, the students in the nunneries, and all of the people with faith who are listening around the world, and all of my friends and relatives in Tibet. I'd like to offer you all my greetings. Now, it's been a couple times that this has happened, that I've had to kind of take a time off from the teaching because I feel a bit of health, and not really all that. Not that I'm all that sick, but when I'm doing the teaching, since there are only 4 times a week that I'm doing this, but the preparations take a lot of time, and so I think that that's probably the issue. And sometimes I don't feel so good, or might get a headache, and various such things happen. And sometimes I think that I would just really try hard for it, but then it gets worse, and so I think that I just can't force myself continually. And so for this reason, I've had to cancel a few of the teachings, a few of the sessions. And so I just thought I should explain the situation to you, otherwise it wouldn't work out. And so that's the reason why I explained this. So today is the 12th day of the Aryachema Spring Teachings. And what I would like to speak with you about today is actually today we should be speaking about the 20th, a good deed from MIKYÖ DORJE's autobiographical good deeds. That's the point we have come to. And so basically, when I say the 20th good deeds, actually, according to the outline from the commentary on the good deeds by the attendant Sanya Peldrup, there are the passages on relative bodhicitta. That's the passage we're speaking about. And that has two main parts: exchanging himself for others in meditation and taking adversity as the path in post-meditation. So basically, the meditation and the post-meditation. And so in discussing the second, taking adversity as the path in post-meditation, there are 10 subtopics. And so here, what we'll be discussing today is this one. The 10th, taking greed as the path. So, but before I get to that one, before I speak about this one, the other day I was speaking about the 9th, and I thought I should give a bit of a conclusion to this. There's a bit more left to say, so I'll say that first. And then I will speak about the 10th of the application. And the other day when I was speaking about the 9th of these, when I was speaking about taking hatred as the path, I was speaking of basic in terms of the 8 worldly concerns. And so we were come to the point, so what happens when you were, and what happens when we were talking about what happens when you take blame and present blame and so on. That is what happens when you're ignored or disrespected. That's what is left right now. So there's basically, so when you have to speak about what we should do when we experience suffering. But when there, so we've spoken a lot about the different types of taking suffering as the path. And so I don't need to say that much more about that. So I don't think there's any need to take pain in particular as to speak about taking pain as the path. We've spoken about that already. But I think it's good if I give like an example. There are all the great masters of the past whom we have not actually met in person, whose voices we have not actually heard. When we read their liberation stories, their accounts of how they took the suffering as the path, or how they took it as a tool to make their virtuous practice of virtue increase. And so we also should try to make the efforts to do the same thing. For example, if you think about the great masters who of the recent times, you think about Tenga Rinpoche. I think most of you already know. We've all met him. We all met him. And Rinpoche, he had diabetes, right? And the diabetes was a particular type that was said. And his, it was a very rare type of diabetes. It's not a type that only a couple dozen people in the world actually have, as he said. And so what his illness was that if you got a little bit of a cut or something, then the cut wouldn't, the wound wouldn't heal, and gradually his flesh would begin to rot. And so Tenga Rinpoche's foot, in the past, he had a little bit of a cut on his foot. And that small cut on his foot, as it got a little bit, didn't get better, and gradually it got larger and larger. And in the end, one of his feet had to be amputated. It's like cutting a piece of wood. They had to cut off. They had to amputate his foot. Now, at that time, when you're talking about amputating a foot, for an ordinary person, is actually a very depressing thing for most people, right? That's the sort of thing it is for most people. But for Rinpoche, when he went to the hospital, he had it, and he was anesthetized. He didn't feel anything, but he was aware that the foot was being amputated. And at that time, he did the meditation of Tonglen, giving and taking, and tried to make the experience of amputation into something meaningful. And so he had that then. So this is what he said. Not only that, Rinpoche also, I don't remember if it was right or something, I think it was his right hand. On his right hand, he had first they had to amputate his little finger on his right hand. Oh no, first, no, it was the ring finger. They had to amputate the ring finger. Or was it the ring? Or was it this one? Maybe it was the index finger. I don't remember which one. Oh, it was the index finger. So they had to amputate his ring finger. And after they amputated his finger, normally Tengyur Rinpoche often did a lot of writing. When I was in Tibet, Rinpoche would write letters with his own hand and to send to me. And it wasn't just me, it was also the attendants who were around him. Many of them also got letters that Rinpoche had written by someone, and Rinpoche often wrote by hand. Later, after they amputated his finger, he had to hold the pen in between his middle finger and his thumb. And it wasn't comfortable, but he still insisted on writing. During the 900th anniversary of the Karmapa, it was during that time, at that time, Rinpoche came to the event, and in the evening, we had the Dusum Khenpa Guru Sadhana. And during that Guru Sadhana, now this is one that I had written myself. I'd written this new text, and so when reciting it, so it's a little bit slightly a different way of reciting it. And at that time, when Rinpoche, when I was looking at it, Rinpoche was looking at everything that the Umze did, and he was writing notes in his text. So here you have to do the drum, here this is the melody you do here. He was writing the notes. So Rinpoche was always, he was like this. This is a special thing about Rinpoche. And so he was really, in bad health. His eyes were no good, and his, he had no foot. He didn't have all his fingers, but he had a lot of enthusiasm. An ordinary person would get really depressed, and for months think, oh, that bad health, and had have a lot of mental difficulties, and we'd probably just end up staying inside, and we wouldn't continue to go here and there, and we just wouldn't think of doing that. But Rinpoche wasn't like that. It was only if he couldn't go at all. Otherwise, one time, when we were doing the Mahakala Puja, but because of his health, I told him he wasn't able to come. And it's still, even though his physical situation was bad, he still thought, I'm going to go to Tibet. And he still had that enthusiasm and that inspiration to do it. And so there's someone whom we've seen and whom we've heard, that have that sort of they're like that. There's so many of these examples. And we think of the great beings or the great lamas. We think that they're only in the past, and we think that there aren't any these days. But we shouldn't think that way. There are ones whom we can see and listen to today, the great beings, great lamas. We can see them in person, and these are someone we can learn from, someone whose example and deeds we can learn from and put into practice. So that's as I said before. Now the next one is how to act when you're disrespected and looked down on. So I'll continue with that. So as I explained the other day, we talked about different ways that you can be harmed. So among them There's another type than what we discussed the other day is when you feel like someone else is disrespecting you, or when they're looking down on you or scorning you. That's feeling that we have that, right? And so that kind of feels like we're being harmed by that, right? But of course, many people, when we say that we're being disrespected or that we're being looked down upon, people just don't want to accept it. Unless it comes to they really have to. They like to think of them as something being good. They don't want to. The idea that they're being disrespected or that they're being scorned, they just don't want to accept it. Still, these situations when we are being disrespected or scorned or looked down on, they happen all the time in our society. Sometimes we have a sadness or anguish, or we have anger. And many of these, often the reason for this is that we feel like we're being disrespected and scorned. For example, in our lives, we think about it. If our parents treat our other siblings well, but we feel like we aren't treating us well, and think they're ignoring me, we feel like they're looking down on me. We get that feeling, right? Even within our siblings, among our siblings. And also when we're like at work, working in our office or our job, we have our boss is looking, and we feel like the boss is paying more attention to the other coworkers and treats them better, but doesn't treat us so well. And so we often have that feeling. When we think about romantic relationships, we think about is that often there's the partner doesn't consider us the most important. If we have that feeling, then that also causes mental pain. Likewise, when we're practicing Dharma, if you're a guru that feels like is treating the other students really well and treats them as more important, and when we think in that way, then we also kind of feel sort of like being disrespected or being ignored, right? So in brief, within our lifetime, so there are many episodes when we think no one thinks well of me. They should pay attention to me, but no one's paying any attention to me. They should respect me, but they don't pay me any respect. And so our lives are filled with episodes like this. And so for this reason, the situation that happens is that many people put a lot of effort into becoming more well-known in order to become more well-known, or so that more people will pay attention to them, so that people will praise them as being good people. As they hope to do this, with the hopes to do this, they work to make this. In particular, these when we look at in the social media on the internet, it's easier to do this sort of thing on the internet, right? And so if you think about it, the people who want to be praised or want to be well known or paid attention to, and the reason why that there's so many more people who put a lot of effort into this, one reason is that, for one perspective, is that they have great attachment to being well known. They have a lot of attachment to being praised. From another perspective, when everyone pays attention, you have the idea, is it your idea? I exist. I am. There's some meaning to being. I think I'm special. So you have this idea becomes clear, and you feel like people are paying more attention to you. And this is what it comes from, I think. For example, like we have WeChat, and looking at WeChat, we have the WeChat. There are the moments, and so there's the social media aspect, and you can put some of the WeChat moments. You can put into your pictures and videos and post notes and so forth. And likewise in Facebook, you can also within Facebook, you can also post your pictures and videos and messages or whatever you want. You can post them all. And the reason why you feel like putting so much in is that fundamentally, It's a way to get people to pay more attention to you. And sort of to confirm and make more stable the idea, I exist, I am. And it's a way to gain acceptance from other people and recognition from other people. So that's why we put effort into it. It's not only that, sometimes what some other people do sometimes is, even if they don't really want other people to praise them, but they think that if other people insult them or criticize them, they think that's okay. It's okay even if they're not praised. And the reason for that is what they need is this idea that something's blazing, like their name and so forth is just like flaming and blazing. So they think like the attention goes much more, and more people are, and as long as more people are paying more attention, they're fine with that. Even if they say bad things, it's bad. They criticize them, it's bad. They don't care. As long as like I'm going viral, they're happy with it. The more people are paying attention to me, as long as they're thinking that, it's okay by them. So they're that sort of people too. They don't necessarily need to have fame. The notoriety is also fame with them. Even if they're, not famous for being good, they're famous for being notorious. That's fine. And so there's a story to it, and this is a story. This is an actual story. Now, the things I told you before, they were actually historical stories, but what I'm telling is like it's just a story, a made-up story. So the story goes like this. Once there was a guy who wanted to take an elephant and kind of go down a side streets of the city to go and like strutting and swagging along with this elephant to show off, to make a spectacle. Like to show off and taking this, leading this elephant. If he'd have brought a cow, it wouldn't have been anything particular, but he was like bringing this huge elephant. Bringing this elephant down this, he was like swaggering and showing off as he did this. And around on the sides of the side of people going back there, going through all the side streets and going around the city, walking through all the side streets. And now in that town or that town, it was very rare to see an elephant there. They just didn't see many of them. So a lot of people would just they're really excited to see the excitement. They'd run, they'd get in these huge crowds and they'd following the elephant around to look and see. So watching the spectacle, and all of a sudden, I know who knows where it came from, but there was it's an Apso dog. No, it's like a type of dog, right? It's an Apso dog. There are many different types of breeds of dogs. So this is one breed, an Apso. And so there are many of these in the Flassa. So this Apso, no one knows where it came from. Just always, well, I didn't even see it. Just all of a sudden put up. And what this dog did was, as soon as he saw it, then he jumped towards the dog. And he started barking at the dog, making as much noise. And so saying it was better to whine or cry or yell or if it was a boy to try to butt it. And so it's like this dog was just running back and forth, all haired and making a lot of noise. And somebody being really combative, when he was doing this, then near the kid there was another dog. This is a dog, kind of longer hair. It's a different breed. And they talk to each other. And the long-haired dog, what it said to the Apso was, a friend, neighbor. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't make a fool of yourself. How can you take down an elephant? Look, wait and see. You're making you're barking. You're barking so hard that you've lost your voice. But the elephant just keeps going straight at you, right? And so the elephant isn't even stopping to walk because of you, right? No matter how much you bark, the elephant isn't even glancing at you. So forget about whether whether you're making any noise or barking or not. And so then the Apso dog said to the other, he said to the other dog, he said, you don't understand. I got what I wanted. I did what I wanted. Look at this. I didn't even have to fight at all, but look, Oh, I'm the most courageous of all the dogs. I'm the most confident, most courageous of dogs. And that alone is okay for me. My heart is satisfied. I'm happy. And now all the dogs are going to talk about me. They say, oh, that Apso, he's really something. Look at him. Like he's going to try to bite an elephant. And this is what the dog's going to say in the future. So I've done what I wanted. So now I'm merely happy about this. So this is what the Apso said, right? So it's kind of like that. Now that's just a story, of course, on the one aspect of it. But if we take a look at it from another perspective, but that's how we do things too, isn't it? In order to get other people's attention, we'll do whatever. And even and we say that I used to try to chase them, and even they laugh at us because of what we're doing. But we don't think it's embarrassing at all. It's like we think of something good. It's like, that worked out well. That's the way we see it. We recognize it. And so for that reason, we have such attachment, incredible attachment to merely whether other people's are paying attention to us or not. And it's kind of what we look for. What can we do? What angle can we come at to make people think that we're more important? So what is the reason or the purpose or cause for doing this? The main cause or condition is we have this idea of we have to sort of bring out our idea that I exist, the idea that I'm special. And to feel like there's a purpose for us being there. So it's to make this idea of being special even better, and to get acceptance from others. That's why we do these things. So if we think that, so what is the reason why we have to think, oh, I exist, I'm there? Just why is it not enough to just be human, but why do we feel like we have to be this special person? Why do we have to have someone that everyone's going to pay attention to us? Why do we have to make people think of us like that? And so it comes down to the fact that ultimately, deep in their hearts, people don't have a lot of belief in themselves. They don't have a lot of confidence, don't have a lot of belief. Now, there are a couple of different ways that we can lack confidence. So one is to kind of think in terms of the external aspect of how things. So many people might think of ourselves. Some people think, oh, this doesn't look like things didn't turn out the way that we think that some things are going to go, but we want things to go well, but things don't go the way we want them to. And things don't work out the way we hope they will or we expect they will. And other people don't pay so much attention to us. And so for that as then we're even less confidence, even less self-confidence. We think, I don't have anything, I'm nothing. It's not going to work out for me. And we lose any belief in ourselves. We lose our self-confidence. And so this is basically not having belief in terms of our external appearances. This is something that comes from things that we can all see. Now, the second reason is that we don't believe in ourselves in the depths of our heart. What this means that we don't believe in ourselves deep in our heart is that if you look at it outside, even if there's not really any external expression of not having self-confidence or not believing in yourself, deep in your mind, you think like, there's no reason for me to be. What was the reason why I was born? Why was I born in my mother's womb? I don't have any skills. I don't have any education. If we have that, we don't feel like there's any reason for us to be, or an expensive for us to, any real clear reason why we should be or exist. And so it's going to into the external appearances. we can recognize there's the lack of self-confidence because of that, or whether it's not manifesting external appearance. A lot of people don't have self-confidence. They don't believe in themselves. They don't think of themselves as important. They feel like other people don't accept them. And then because of that, this creates a lot of problems. So like these days, you have depression. Like the depression, like this mental illness where you just feel a lot of mental suffering that happens to a lot of people. Likewise, and many other ones. Some people, sometimes even they're kind of fat, but they think that they're a little bit fat, and they see that other people in this. And it's a happens to young girls, the age of 12 or 13. They say everyone when their classmates say that they're fat, and they think that this is bad. They think that being fat is something that really hits them. And in order to not feel fat, then they don't eat food. They stop eating. And eventually, they get to the point where they even see food, they feel revolted. And they get sick, and they get extremely thin. So many such situations. Likewise, from when people say various things about them and criticize them and all them. And then there are others. There are quite a few people who commit suicide because of that. So all of these is because of not believing in yourself, or not having and not giving themselves any space, and not seeing yourself as being a good. And this is why these happen. And so for that reason, so at this point, so I have to tell a Tibetan story. Now, this is a real story, a true story. This is a story about a historical event. And now you all know this story. Milarepa subsisted by eating only nettles. He only ate nettles, and because he sat there, he lost all his physical strength. And his body came to something like no one would bear to look at. Like body turned skin. It was like, it's kind of like his body started to decaying. It's like it gets a little bit kind of gray. It's like almost getting it's moldy. It's like really extremely emaciated. And when he's starting to walk, I think he's going to fall over. And his arms and his legs, he thought they're going to just break. It was just like they would break it. And if someone else would look at him, then people would wonder, is he really a human or not? People wouldn't believe it or not. So this is the way it happened. And when he got to that point, then at one point there was a large group of people who came looking for feathers. They're looking for feathers to make. They're useful for making feathers and so forth. And where do you get them? You need to go to the caves where there are birds' nests, and so they went looking for bird feathers there. And so a lot of people were going through all the different caves and the mountains looking for feathers, and they got to Milarepa's cave, and they saw Milarepa was in there. And the moment they saw Milarepa, they thought it's a ghost. There's a ghost there, and they all ran away. And the reason for that is this really emaciated green persons, like they're all frightened of them, and they all ran away. There's a ghost, and they all ran away. And then Milarepa at that point said, "I'm human. You don't need to be afraid. I'm human." So, are you really? They said, "I'm not sure. Is he really or is he not?" So they're kind of standing. They weren't sure. They couldn't come close, but they're looking from far away. Is looking from far away, peering. How can that be a human? It's like someone hasn't died yet. Actually, he should have died already if you look at his body. He should have died. That's really strange. And it's kind of only looking from far away. They didn't dare to approach close. And then they left. They went back. And now, a few days later, among those people there is an older person there, someone who could know how to think a little bit. So probably think a little bit, it's like that. It's probably someone who's doing Dharma practice. He thought about it, and so he came again. This kind of older person who had a little bit more courage, and he came. And he brought a little bit of tsampa, and he spoke a little bit with Milarepa. And he gave that a little bit of tsampa to Milarepa. And when he gave Milarepa a little bit of tsampa, and before that, Milarepa had no tsampa. He only had nettles. He didn't have any tsampa. So he didn't have it. So as soon as he got a little bit of tsampa, so he put it in his nettle soup. So in the nettle soup, he put some bit of tsampa in this nettle soup and ate that. And he had this feeling like his health became much clearer, like it felt very comfortable. And then he sang that song, the Song of Interdependence, that became really well known. And we think of it, but put a little bit of tsampa in the nettle soup, how's it going to make it feel so good so quickly? But for Milarepa, it was so extremely bad. Like he had absolutely nothing good to eat. He put a little bit of tsampa in there, and that kind of like sustained his body and kind of helped it feel clear, and it was really beneficial. And so for us, we're just always eating all the time, right? We aren't going to have that sort of feeling. So then the guy who brought him the tsampa was named Shendorma. Shendorma was, after he offered Milarepa the tsampa, he left, and then at one time there was a beer festival it's probably some sort of a wedding or something. He went there, and he was speaking with a lot of people, the public there. And they say, up in the cave, up at the top of the cave, there's Militapaga. He doesn't think about anything but Dharma, not at all. He's a really hardcore guy. So if we want to gather the accumulations, then we should make offerings to him. And that's what he said, right? When he said that, then around that time, at the wedding, so there's, so in the place among the wedding guests, there was Milarepa's aunt. There was like the aunt and uncle who had tortured Milarepa, right? And so the aunt heard this when everyone was talking about Tupaga. They knew that it was that it was her nephew, and she said, "You're his aunt, and he's this bad, and he's doing this drama. You should go up. You should go. You need to go." And so the aunt couldn't say no, but so she took a servant with her. And took a little bit of meat and a little bit of butter and went to see Milarepa. And when she went to Milarepa, then at that point, Milarepa was in a meditation session. Since he was in the meditation, he just would not leave a session. But he wouldn't leave a session. She said he didn't even know. So at the beginning, to begin with, she didn't really like Milarepa. And from that, she has a very short temper. There's no point. And she left the meat and butter on the grass and just left. And when she left, then what happened? Milarepa didn't see that his aunt had come. Didn't see that she had come. That the meat and butter was left there. And so what happened is all of the foxes and the wolves came and they ate all the meat and the butter, and there was nothing left for Milarepa. And now there's this talk that everyone was saying. The rumors that Milarepa was up in the upper part of the valley, and his little sister Peta heard. She heard this, and when she went to the aunt, because the aunt had gone to see Milarepa, so she went to go talk with the aunt. And she was asking again. Then the aunt said, so I went to go to bring him, make him an offering, but he didn't pay any attention. He did nothing at all. So he didn't treat us well. But you're his sister, so it's probably better that he'll meet you. So the aunt said, you have to go this way and told her the whole way. And so Peta went up to see her. The sister went up, and she followed the path and got to the cave where Milarepa is. When outside she was looking, she was saying, Tupaga, she's saying, calling for him. And Milarepa gradually came out of the doorway of the cave. When she saw him, the sister, like, when she's saying, this emaciated person, how can this be my brother? And she like sort of ran away. Because Beta didn't recognize him. She's just a scary person no one could recognize. But Milarepa knew that it was a sister, and he said, oh, come back up. And when she said, come up, but then Beta said she didn't recognize the face, but she recognized his voice. And so she came back to the cave. And she looked at Milarepa and was like, no, the Milarepa at that time, all his body hairs had turned green. Because he'd been eating nettles, all of his, and he was like completely, like a complete skeleton. There was no muscles left. And his nose was all caved, and his eyes had all sunk back. And he wasn't even able to speak well, because when you have to speak, he didn't have enough energy to be able to speak. It's kind of like his like very muddled speech. And so, and we looked at it, it was like something that was just completely sad about. And so the sister just automatically began to cry. And she said, there's no one in this world more miserable than us, brother and sister. And she said, and she hung her head between his two knees and started sobbing. And Milarepa took her by the hand. He sang some songs to console her. She sang many songs to her. I don't need to tell you about the songs here. And so his sister said, I'm a beggar. I haven't got everything to give you. And you haven't anything to give me. So what should we do? So there's nothing there to eat there, but it's nettles. So the sister thought, she started to make the nettles. When she started to make the nettles, she thought that when you make this, you have to give a little bit of, if you're going to make a soup, you have to put in some like, you need to put different things to put in it, like salt and things like that. So, and she knew that she thought maybe there's a little bit of left from what the aunt brought. And so Beta said, and you need to put a little bit of meat and fat, and you need to put some things. And she said, where's the salt? There's no salt. And Milarepa said, if there's salt, then it would be actual food. I don't have any food to eat. And as a substitute for salt, put in more nettles. As a substitute for barley flour, you have to put in more nettles. I don't have anything else to give any flavor to the food, so you just have to cook the. And so she just cooked the nettles, and she put 3 more in, and the Milarepa ate it. It's like, it's really delicious. And the sister, she was a beggar, but when she looked at his food, she was just completely revolted. She couldn't actually think of it as being food, even though she was a beggar. But for Milarepa, it was completely delicious. And so I was like, no good food to eat. And then she began to cry again. And what she said is, your free brothers just stay like this, and wasn't offended this are going to lose our human lives. It was better if you go off and beg for some alms. When she said that, what Milarepa had said, I thought I'd stay here and do some practice, and so I don't have time for me to go to alms. There's no way I can go, he said. And the sister Peta, she's wondered what should we do, and she said she went herself. She went up and down the entire valley, going back and forth, and eventually managed to get a little bit of samba, that they give for beggars. And she came back up, and she gave it to offer to Milarepa. And when she gave it to Milarepa, what they got at the time, when she came into that, Milarepa is usually, he didn't have any clothes to wear, right? She came to offer him the best of that. So Milarepa came out, he was just completely naked. And his sister saw, you aren't even embarrassed in front of your sister. You got you call you a person, but you don't really deserve the name of being human. People just know that you aren't a human anymore. And then Milarepa presented, sang a whole bunch of other songs, and I don't need to tell you those. Then after that, then once again, she went about begging and looking for something. Then she saw the way she saw Barilotoa. So Barilotoa at that time, she was like during a big event. It is a big event there. It's like, yeah, below him there were horses, and he had a big cloak, and he had a hat, and she saw him, and the sister thought, this is what you should be if you're going to be a Dharma practitioner. Some of you say, if this is someone who has a lot of merit. My brother, you can't even really say that he's if he's a Dharma practitioner. He's like he's a verge of dying. That's no good for this. So she went about and she went up and down to the top and bottom of the valley, and the nomads there so they had the cushions that they did. There's a little bit of wool left in there that they'd thrown out, that they tossed out as if it was wool. So that she took all of that, and then she took a lot of dog hair and goat wool, and she made some fabric out of that. And she went and brought up to say, you need something to wear. If I can't do anything, at least you need something to wear. Actually, the people in the Barilo Tsao is like that. He's got so much power and influence. And your Dharma, it's not Dharma. That's not going to work out. Is it make her something to wear out of this fabric and go to better to be an attendant of Barilo Tsao. The way you're doing Dharma, nothing's going to come of that. And so then he's saying many songs about the 8 worldly concerns and all that. And at the very end, what I want to speak is the main thing I want to say here is, and then the sister got to get more begging. She got a bit of tsampa and a lot of beer. She brought these, and she came up to see Milarepa. And they had a Gana Chakra. And because of the tsampa and the Gana Chakra, then they had to have a little bit of a Gana Chakra. And so the Milarepa said at that time, in the future, sister, you don't have to come back. I'm going to Dharma practice. If you keep on coming, it's interrupting my practice, so you don't need to come. And he's sang the song about running out of tsampa. And it's a little bit different, isn't it? So the version that I have is the one from the Zunakman. I thought it'd be good if I read it. I supplicate my Lord Guru, bless this beggar to stay in mountain retreat. If I can die in this mountain retreat, my joys unknown to enemies and woes unknown to my family, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can die in this mountain retreat, my cold unknown by my father and hunger unknown to my mother, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can die in this mountain retreat, my aging unknown to my friends and sickness unknown to my sister, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. There's a spelling mistake here. If I could die on this mountain retreat, ants sucking on my flesh and bones, bugs eating my muscles and tendons, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can die in this mountain retreat, my death unknown to many people and rotting corpse and seen by birds, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can die in this mountain retreat, no trace of humans at my door, no sign of blood inside, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can die in this mountain retreat, no pallbearers to carry my corpse, no one to weep upon my death, this beggar's aim will be fulfilled. If I can in this mountain retreat with no one to ask where I've gone and nowhere to point where that I've come, this is the beggar's aim will be fulfilled. And may this beggar's prayer to die in a cave in an uninhabited valley be made for the sake of wanderers. And so this is the prayer that he made. And so if we look at this, well, we notice that this is completely given up everything, given up all ties. He didn't, if his friends or his family didn't know, but that's a no feeling. And if other people just don't know about it, then why? And if even birds don't know that my corpse is rotting, that's fine. said many things like this, right? And so if we look at this, we can say, like, for a Dharma practitioner, and from the perspective of a Dharma practitioner, we cannot live only within the way other people see us, the way people think and expect. Our own level, this level of our skills we are, just cannot be determined merely by whether people think are important or whether they're just pay attention to me or whether they're accepting us. So your level of Dharma practice, your level of skills is not about whether someone thinks you're important or whether they accept you or pay attention to you. That's not what is important. So the level of how good you are and how bad you are cannot be decided by other people alone. And as it says in the 7 points of mind training, of the two judges hold the principal one. And similar. So whether you're a good person or not is not hidden to you. So you have your own, the authority of your own mind. You have the true Dharma and the measuring stick of the Guru's advice, and you measure yourself against that. It's not merely the way other people see you or other people's opinions. That's not the most important. Our belief in ourselves, our self-confidence, our belief in ourselves should come from the true Dharma and from our practice. Actually, so we have this pure motivation, we have bodhicitta, and we have compassion. If we have that, then we can have confidence in ourselves. And that alone is a cause of being happiness. Because realizing we have this special jewel, this precious, this idea that we're important and significant. We recognize that. So in brief, there's no reason to get upset if other people ignore us or don't pay attention to us. For instance, someone who practices the Dharma, the main project of our life is to really examine our own intentions and actions, see whether they accord with the Dharma or not whether other people like them or not. That's not what we consider the most important. So in the society, the way people see us and the way people look at things are very often different. There's no way we can be in a way that goes the way other people want, everyone else wants. Because some people are going to see you as good, some people are going to see you as bad. And so if when it says some people see you as well, if you get inspired and other people see you bad, if you lose your inspiration, if that's how it is, then there's no way that our life can be stable. And in particular, if you have 100 people seeing you badly, but there's one person who's looking at badly, then that one person who sees you badly is going to be even more important, because the other people who think you're good, they aren't going to speak to you. But the other person, when you say you're no good, then immediately we're going to say, you're going to think that everyone in the world sees you as bad. Actually, there are 100 people who see you as good, but they're not saying anything about it. They don't have to say that you're good. And if there's one person who's giving you a hard time and saying you're bad, and immediately, it's like we get upset about it. Now, in particular, when we're practicing Dharma from the bottom of our heart in the society, the way people see us, it's not really something we should consider that important. We could look at it, but the way people see it in society, see things, is not the true Dharma. Everyone is just thinking about external things and external society. It's like the same way that Milarepa's sister Peto is thinking. The way they think of things is that some people have a lot of minutes, they have very close to where they have a good food to eat. They look at that and they think that that's a Dharma practitioner, has a lot of merit. That's all they think, right? But for Milarepa, if we look at it, when you think about it, if a Dharma practitioner, it's not a question of whether you have food to eat and clothes to wear on your back. And so this is something that we need to wear and that we need to think about. So I think we should better take a break here. then we'll come back after the break. And I haven't got much more to say. So we'll now have the 30-minute break.
Ye mo te rin che che chan ze ba wa pa ye na ke che jo de da cha to che ra she che la ye wa ye re che do se se ge yo wa che kro yo che ge na pa ye o den ye ble ta na do pa che wa ya ta do do ma na na ye wa ge de le shi ya chi be so le mo ya ye yo de sim je do ma sim je be te na so so ne jo je tam che kun cho tam che da che de nam da ku so la ri che me do la so che ji me che ba 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 sho che ra cham ya la so me ge wa nam la che ze de she da ge de she she ge bo se da che na che ye de ja so nam la da de ya ya la ja se de ya ni de da la nye ba ki lo jo jo ji oi benzra sa to sa ma ya ma no ba na ya benzra sa do de no ba ti ja ji jo me ba wa sa do ka yo me ba wa su bo ka yo me ba wa ano ra do me ba wa sra wa si de me ja ya sra wa karma su sa me si tam shi re ya kuro ho ha 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 ho ba ga ve sra wa da ta ka da ben za ma me bin je bin je ba wa ma ha sa ma ya sa do ben za ho me a ho she nam ra da ba wa je se ge sa she o ben za ri ge a ho che che re ko re yo ge ra ve yo so ko ve yu so ri ge bo re o cho ra sha le pa bo do sam bo le no ba la je ja da me ni le la le ba ma ya da ma ya she yo de da lam cho ro da me ni da me ni ge da re bo che re o ba sa ge she de je ba ma me ba ye lo do ko lo re bo che no bo re bo che che mo re bo che ne bo re bo che na bo re bo che da jo re bo che mo be re bo che tre che be bo bo ke mo mo che wa mo lo mo ra mo me do be mo na se mo ti cha mo ni mo da rin bo che do cho le nam ba ge re ge se ye so ka da mi ba je pin so so ba ma sa wa me ba ra ja ja se de ye ja ne ne ba ge bra ke de la ma ye dam san ge jan cho se ba bo e ka ro chi jo so me so da che ba nam la ri wa ge o tu je ro ve de do she so so she ne ji ge la do so sa she pi che jo she me do ja re ra ni she ni de jian ba de san je xin doi mi de pe wa yin zhu de nam lai xin lai zhe bu rai shui chu zhe yi sui shu ba yi san je jian chui sen ba dai nam ai du je lo be dai yi dai ha sui kur dai je de sui de shi ma le lai ni shi re rai je ba dai ni shi je wa cha ja dai je wa bum dai du ju de me de ji doi ni ne ne me le gum ai nam lai be tu je se gong xie su se xin ne jing ye la lu su oi me te la pu zan me ga sam wan ju sa pa ra nai sam mai ai oi ni je me de sam bu de be ve cha chu lam la pa ji mi jo xie de so de xie gong ba do ba da se ba mi zhe xie wa rai mi ne xi nam ka nyam bin zhou wa zhe wa rai shu
说，当那么你先能多，那说。다 이제야 안 남길 주버드샤 착바 남길사 돼 쉬어야 말해 다 리제니 순수순 나로네 안데 리제니 슈버드샤 돼요 다리 지제데 간지레 쉬비나 통메 뒤네 코메기지 루심동에 잡을 두 유럽이
Since time without adversary, it's in this 20th good deed. Since time without beginning, samsaric birth and death have with their agonies wearied my body and mind. Therefore, I strove in order that I might have a strong body and mind forever until enlightenment. I think of this as one of my good deeds. This is the 20th good deed, the 10th application of taking greed as the path. So generally, the meaning of this is that most people, from beginningless samsara up until this present body, have taken birth many times in the three realms of samsara. And during this time, they've experienced many different types of suffering. And in the future, will continue to certainly experience the unbearable sufferings of the birth, aging, sickness, and death. But we don't really think about this. And in addition to not only thinking about that, we still continue to cherish our own body. We're unable to sever the ties or a craving for food and clothing. And our craving for the pleasures of desire, we're unable to cut through the craving for that. Even when we're practicing the Dharma, we say that we must not let our body go to waste. That the body is really important, we say. And so we give a lot of reasons and then go spend all our energy of body, speech, and mind getting busy looking for food and clothing. This is what happens, right? But MIKYÖ DORJE was like kind of different, whether this is clothing, whether it's the food that he ate, or whether it is the cushions or beds that he sat on or laying on. In any case, he was actually very easy to take care of and serve. And he was a very easy guru to follow. It's basically said like a spiritual friend should be easy to nourish and fill, as it said. This is a saying we have, right? A spiritual friend should be someone who is hard to serve, and who, even when you talk about food, even it's like is difficult to please in terms of the food. That's the way it is, and it's difficult to serve the Lama. So one of the characteristics of a spiritual friend is that they're easy to nourish, to fill, and to efficient president. And so that was a feature that MIKYÖ DORJE had, and particularly with food, is whatever was served to you was fine. No matter who was offered, he was fine. I mean, just could see it with his eyes. It was fine. And so it isn't think if they had to, placate some sort of or to keep up with the British sponsor, or whether the food was delicious or not, or whether there's a strange food or not. He didn't care about that. It's like some sort of bizarre dish that he had never seen before. Then it just accept it immediately. It's like when you're giving food or giving a piece of bread to a kid, and the kid to a child. The child doesn't care if as soon as you give it to them, they're going to be. As soon as you get a piece of bread, they get a piece of bread, then the kid's happy, right? Similarly, this is MIKYÖ DORJE, the same thing. Consider this kind of new, different type of dish. He's like, whatever was delicious or not, he just took it. Generally, MIKYÖ DORJE actually had very poor food. He didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And his attendants didn't really think about it much. And when people thought of, if they saw the food that MIKYÖ DORJE eats, like they'd probably shed tears because such bad food. But so often the food that MIKYÖ DORJE was served was such bad food that people were amazed that it be served to MIKYÖ DORJE. So basically, he wasn't worried about food was good or bad. Saying you have to make this food from here, that food. He never had any expectations for that. Whatever he gave him, he would eat it. He just didn't care if it was good or not. He'd never speak about that. If you look at this example that MIKYÖ DORJE gave, this is just a lot of people, a lot of merit like this, they'd say, oh, that should be the same for us. And they'd immediately try to do what they could to reduce their craving for food. One time, there was his MIKYÖ DORJE's attendant, the Geshe Sanjay Padra. Do you have any snack that you're going to have? Should I give like some like a kind of a snack like this? And so no, the Geshe, whatever's in there wasn't anything else to have. That's just because it's like a big lump of honey that is a box filled with this like a lump. And I said, oh, okay, bring that. I don't care. I don't cling to myself. So whatever is it different to me if it's good or not, just bring it to me. As soon as I see it, it's fine. And then gradually I can maybe give it to someone else. One day MIKYÖ DORJE said that when he asked MIKYÖ DORJE, please be more careful about your food. Eat good, healthy, nutritious food, please. Please give advice about what you need and what you don't need. Other lamas say that their attendants, they pay attention to the food that isn't, and so we aren't able to really pay much attention. So if you just please tell us, when he asked us, and what MIKYÖ DORJE said is, so in the past, during the time of the previous Karmapas, like the Karmapa, Lord of Dharma, Lord of Dorje, and whatever, they always had whatever they need to eat. But these days, we become big beggars, and since we're beggars now, so there's no way I can say this is good and this isn't good. How does it? So if I said that, so even if I tell you what to do, it's not going to work out. So I'm not going to tell you. And so in any case, it is to eat any foods that were good or very good. But actually, his health was great. His complexion was very good. So in Tibet, when you have a long days, if you don't drink a lot of tea, then your body can get a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit lethargic. But MIKYÖ DORJE, even if it didn't have tea all day, like he never got lethargic. Sometimes in the day, like these days, in the daytime, if you don't have a little bit of tea or coffee or something, you fall asleep. But MIKYÖ DORJE wasn't that. He never got sleepy. He wouldn't drink tea or anything all day long, but he was just like, never got kind of lethargic or never felt sleepy at all. And if you think about his clothing, he's a great lama. So it wouldn't be okay for him to wear clothes that are just reduced to rags and really tattered, but otherwise, but he just thought that food and clothes, he just didn't wear good clothing. So basically didn't wear rags because he was a big lama. Because if you're a great lama, you can't get away with just wearing rags. And so for that reason, but that was the only reason. Other than that, he just wear whatever happened to. He never wear, proper good robes or robes with good material or anything like that. Normally, the great lamas in the old days would wear silk outer robes and various other things to wear. And MIKYÖ DORJE, like a cotton outer robe. And his hats were just like whatever he had. There wasn't any particular intentional thing that he had made for it. There's nothing like that. And some people would come to offer him things. I'll come to offer him hats or come to offer him that. And so that the people who are making the offerings could have some that he would wear them for a little while, but otherwise then he wouldn't feel like he liked that better. And this was, he didn't like that one. MIKYÖ DORJE, for his own part, that was no different to him. And since Inalda didn't have any attachment to food and clothing, he also encouraged other people not to have so much attachment to the body or their food and clothing. And the people who did this, he really liked that. And he praised people like this. And so because he is so pleased when people were not pleased with food and clothing, and so if people who would like lacked any craving for sensory pleasures or stomped on their 8 concerns and gave up on this life, he was incredibly pleased by such people. But in any case, MIKYÖ DORJE himself, for the sake of sentient beings and the teachings, he just, it's because he had to stay and use that body to that. He would just merely to stay in his life, his food and clothing. He just had so that he wouldn't be cold or hungry, but wouldn't freeze or be hungry. But he had no attachment. But he could have been worn great clothes and so forth. He put into great, particularly in old days in Tibet. So in the old days, as in the days of the old days, it said that the Karmapa is never short of wealth, and because the Karma was very wealthy. And the reason for that is that they had received offerings from people in China, Mongolia, and Tibet. And so for that reason, even the kings of Tibet even the kings of Tibet would not have been satisfied with his would have been satisfied with his the Karmapa's wealth. And so he was but he was not like that. He was just not worried about these sensory pleasures at all. So basically, I think that's what I had to say about the 20th good deed. And so from tomorrow, we're going to change the schedule a little bit. And the reason is that, as I said before, I'm not feeling so well physically. I've been working too hard or what, I don't know. It's a bit different than before. If it's a little bit misunderstood, but frankly, the other day, it's like my head, I was feeling better. And I even had to go to the hospital. Now, it wasn't so bad, but it was really strange. I've never had that happen before. And so I think it's better for me to be a little bit careful. So for that reason, so we need to change the schedule for the next few days. And so the way we'll do it is that today we have the tea. Today and the 15th we have the tea. So on the 16th, we're going to take a day off. No, it'll be a day off for you, but it won't be a day off for me. I will have preparations that I have to do. So the 16th will be a day off. And the 17th, we'll have a teaching. The 18th will be a day off. And then the 19th, we'll have the teaching. So the last day will be the last day of the teaching will be on the 19th. Then after that, on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, for 3 days, we won't have any teachings, but we will have, I think it's good if we recite some prayers or do some puja. And the reason for this is that these days, in the recent times, there's the war in Ukraine, and many people have passed away in the war, and the war is still going on. And this war, and it's also possible that this war could lead to an even larger war. That's not impossible. So in order to pacify the war and also for the sake of pacifying, ending the war, and for the people who've passed away in the war, I think it's important that we do some puja for them. Also, likewise, in the recently in Tibet, there was an airplane that crashed. They still don't know the cause for the crash, but the way the airplane crossed was very different than usual. It's kind of inconceivable. It just all of a sudden fell out of the sky, and everyone were just blown, smashed to smithereens, as you can't find any actual persons, dead people. And so there are people who have asked us to do some puja on behalf of those people. So we'll take all these people together. And so for 3 days, I think it's good for us to recite puja. And so what we will, I haven't decided exactly what we say, but generally, fundamentally, I think it's probably good for us to do the Amitabha puja, the Chatme sky treasure, sky dharma Amitabha. I think that's probably what we'll have to, but I haven't exactly decided, but I will decide quickly and let you know soon. In any case, we need to change the question. So we have 1 day question, then the next day we'll have nothing. And then the day after, so I have a day of teaching, a day off, a day of teaching, a day off, and then teaching. And I think that in the future, doing it this way is probably best. If we don't do it, I think it's the best way to do it. A day of teaching, a day off. And if we do that, then my body just, if I'm working too hard for my body, it gets strange. I get a little bit, I don't feel so good after that. Sometimes I think I should just work hard, but sometimes if it becomes really strong, then if you try too hard, then it's not good. So I need to think about the future, the long term. And so this is the situation. So this is what I have to say to you. So that is enough for today, and we'll leave it there. So we will have the dedication prayers.
Dagi Sila